Hi there, Jen here today. Thanks for joining me. Today I am creating 8 cards using two 6x6 sheets of pattern paper. And the pattern paper is from the December box of the month for Not Too Shabby. And so I am going to go ahead and I have chosen the 2 pieces of pattern paper that I'm going to use. One of them is from the Fawns and Winter set, and one is from the 6x6 Snow Critters set. I am also going to be using the Snuggle Weather stamp set as well as Snow Critters. And I'm also going to be using a kind of a cream or off-white color matte for the blue paper, and then I'm going to be using this dark brown paper for the matte for the green tree paper. I will also be using two 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper cut 4 times each, so that will give me my 8 card panels. So each of those is going to be cut 4.25 by 5.5. And for this process, if you want to be exact on the exact size of the paper that you want, you can go ahead and measure it out. I don't like measurements. I don't like taking measurements. So you'll see when I create these cards, I am not doing a lot of that. So basically all I'm doing for this first piece of pattern paper is drawing an X on it. Not like an even X across the card, though you could do that. Basically what I'm going to do is cut this 4 times so that I have 4 pieces of pattern paper, and I'll then use each of those pieces for 1 card. So basically that's going to give me 4 cards for each piece of 6x6 pattern paper. So I'm going to go ahead and take my guillotine trimmer and just trim along those pencil lines that I cut. And then when I move on to the blue piece of paper, I don't actually draw lines on it, partly because it's such a little bit of a darker paper and I didn't want to make dark pencil lines. So I just kind of winged it. I don't know, this is probably not necessarily an X, but I just kind of eyeballed it to see kind of different shapes that I would maybe want on my card panels, and so that's basically how I did it. I mean, really, you can do it any way that you want to do it. I just thought this was a super fun idea that I saw on Pinterest, and a great way to use up some pattern papers, and also a great way to make a lot of fairly quick cards. And then again, since I don't like taking measurements, I went ahead and instead of kind of measuring out each of the pieces of pattern paper to create my mat, I'm just leaving a little bit of a space around each of the pieces of pattern paper and adhering that to my mats. So again, this is kind of a cream color, and then the green paper will be on a brown mat. So I'm going to go ahead and again use my guillotine paper trimmer, and basically how I'm trimming this is I am lining up the piece of pattern paper with the edge of that plastic piece on the guillotine trimmer, and that gives me a pretty even edge as far as the space around each of the pieces of pattern paper. It's not perfect by any means, but it does get the job done. So after I have cut and matted all of my pattern paper onto my solid cardstock, I'm going to go ahead and assemble the cards. So to keep it simple, I have just gone through my stash of circle dies, and I have picked out a few that I have used on all 8 cards in this video. And so I am just, like I said, I kept it simple. I used a piece of white paper for each of the circles, and basically all I'm going to do is figure out where I want that pattern paper to fit on each of my 4.25 by 5.5 card panels. And there are some card panels that I do have to trim off a little bit of paper because they are bigger than my card panel. But if you didn't want any waste with your pattern paper, you could definitely go ahead and measure out different shapes that will fit on a 4.25 by 5.5 card panel. But I love creating cards like this because you can get a lot of cards from a very little paper, and it's fairly quick to do. Honestly, probably the longest part of assembling these or putting together these cards was actually the coloring the images. So the rest of it is pretty quick and easy, and if you're just using the ephemera from the ephemera packs, it'll be even quicker. And once I'm finished adding all of my pieces to the cards, I grab some different sentiments from the stamp sets, as well as a few different embellishments to kind of jazz up the cards a little bit, but I didn't add too much. There is a lot of white space on these cards. I like my white space, so it doesn't bother me too much that there is more than what I would usually have. I think they look nice and clean, and really you can add whatever you want to add to them to make them a little fuller. I think just adding the sentiment though just kind of fills in that space really nicely. For the deer card, I went ahead and I grabbed a blue ribbon from my stash and created a bow. So I'm going to take a glue dot and add that right over the area where there is already a bow. And I love using glue dots for ribbons mainly, or twine, or different things, just because they're really easy to use and they stick very well and they hold a lot better than liquid glue does. So that's why I use those a lot. But that's going to be the first set of cards. For the second set of cards, I don't go through the process of assembling them, mainly because it's exactly the same as the first set. I am popping up all of the circles, adhering the different pattern papers, and then adding a sentiment. So for this one, I didn't pop up any of the sentiments. I put them in my MISTI and just stamped them directly onto that white space of the card. I love this little bunny, so adorable. And so that's going to finish off my 8 cards using 2 pieces of 6x6 pattern paper. I think this kit is going to sell out just like many of the others have. It is super adorable, and just another great kit from the Not Too Shabby shop. Don't forget to subscribe to the Not Too Shabby channel. We've got lots of inspiration from Jamie as well as the design team members. And that is it for me today. If you like this video, I'd love a thumbs up, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks so much.